Welcome once again, fight fans, to DAZN Mixed Martial Arts. Sean O'Connell, Dan Hardy, and coming off one of the biggest weekends in combat sports that I can remember. Huge crossover event in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and Francis Ngannou establishes himself as the baddest man on the planet. Steps into the pro boxing ring for the very first time and gives the lineal heavyweight champion Tyson Fury every bit that he could handle. A lot of folks think that Francis actually won this fight. Dan, I am still buzzing.
Me too. I mean, what an event, what an occasion as well. You know what I mean? And for Francis to come out and put the performance on that he did was incredible. You know, like Tyson Fury he's a tricky, awkward individual. I mean, of all the heavyweights that you could have picked for Ngannou to make his debut against, Fury was probably the most tricky stylistically. The way that he moves, his fight IQ, his ability to wrap people up and drain them. And honestly, it was a version of Francis Ngannou that I couldn't have pictured, because we talked about his chances going into this, and well, you know, he's a big puncher. He could land that big punch. It was always, you know, we were tuning in for the what if he lands, but not the what if he outboxes Tyson Fury over a good portion of the rounds. I mean, like I've watched the fight. I was there live and I scored it live. I had it 96-93 for Ngannou. I've watched it back 3 or 4 times and my scorecard's still the same. I would fluctuate maybe the first round 95-94, but I still go Ngannou. And the fact that he was able to do it over the distance, over the 10 rounds was even more impressive for me.
Well, that's really, I mean, all of us who feel ourselves experts in mixed martial arts or in boxing or in combat sports or whatever, right? The paper matchup was, okay, if Francis Ngannou can somehow find a way to make Tyson Fury freeze his feet and trap him in a corner and land some big shots, he gives himself that puncher's chance. Nobody was talking about the development of his own footwork. Nobody was talking about just how he was going to box in this fight. Not just be a puncher, but box in this fight against a guy who, as we said when we talked about this before the fight happened, was the toughest matchup he could find on planet Earth, right? Not just in boxing, but on planet Earth, because Francis is the baddest man on the planet in mixed martial arts. So squaring off against like someone like John Jones, we thought the margin, the gap between skill sets would be narrower in an MMA super fight. Then going over into boxing, it was like, man, you're going up against a guy who this has been his life, and he's the lineal champ, and he's sort of cleaned out the weight class. Every other great heavyweight on the planet, Tyson Fury has beaten soundly or made to look silly, or he's had epic wars with, but he stands alone at the top of the mountain. None of us thought Francis was going to go in there and box, and it's a huge credit to Francis, his undeniable, indomitable human spirit, his goals, his focus, and of course, the camp that he put together. Dewey Cooper, who's supposed to be an MMA striking coach at this point in his career, right? Eric Nixick, who of course is the head coach at Extreme Couture. These guys, without branching out really and finding too much outside help, got Francis Ngannou ready to take on the best heavyweight boxer on the planet and to outfight him. It's movie worthy. It's a Hollywood script that is almost too unrealistic to believe, but we should begin to expect these things from Francis Ngannou, because where he started and where he's at now is one of one. The guy's absolutely incredible.
Agreed. And can you imagine? I mean, you know, today the WBC announced that they were going to put him in the top 10 rankings, which means that he's now a legitimate contender, a player for that title, and other heavyweights have to consider him as a potential opponent. Like, can you think of anybody else right now that is anywhere near close to holding a title in boxing and mixed martial arts? Like, I know, of course, he vacated the heavyweight title, but we all still consider him as the heavyweight champ, and he's going to come over and fight in the PFL, and he'll be a heavyweight champion there, no doubt, unless we can find somebody that's going to give him a hard time. But to be in the rankings at the WBC as well after one fight that he lost by split decision, it's incredible. And you know, we talk about his power, we talk about the unpredictability, but like, we can't undersell his composure as well, because all the time, like, in my head, I was thinking it through, and it seemed to me like Tyson Fury was kind of halfway through a training camp for Alexander Usyk, which the date was booked December 23rd. And you've like there was a conversation about that throughout fight week. You know, is that fight going to happen? What if he gets cut? What if he gets caught, hurt, knocked down? What if he just has a rough fight and he just doesn't have the energy to go straight back into a training camp? So it kind of felt a little bit like he was looking past Ngannou. But I also very much feel like he had a notion of who Ngannou was going to be as an opponent, and he wasn't that. Like all the way through fight week, I was working alongside world champion boxer Carl Frampton, and we were discussing it, and Carl kept saying, like, I feel like he's got to start fast. I feel like he's got to start fast and just throw hard because that's his chance. He's probably got 3 rounds. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, the unpredictability of the angles of his punches is a big key. But if he started fast and aggressive, that would be predictable. And that's what Tyson's preparing for. So if you watch the open workout, Tyson's working short rear uppercut, short Larry Holmes right hook, and then keeping him behind the jab. He was expecting Ngannou to be on top of him. I think he was, I mean, like we were even looking at the ropes for the ring and thinking they're kind of slack, they're a little loose. I think he was expecting to be rope-a-doping and leaning back, and you know, it was a massive ring as well. Like there were a lot of things that played into the idea that Ngannou was going to be recklessly aggressive and crashing into range. And I think Fury felt like he was going to be able to feint him and make him throw a miss, and then tie him up when he crashed into range and just do the better work on the inside. But like as soon as the first round started, everyone's like, "Oh, hang on a minute, he's standing at range and he's looking at jabs to the body." And you know, and then of course in the third round when he landed that hook, like you could almost see the moment, well, the rest of the year unravel for Tyson Fury as he hit the deck. Like there was like this look over at his corner, like, wow, okay, this is a different situation, a different problem. And I wonder whether he's ever locked up with somebody. I mean, of course, the heavyweight division is full of monsters, but I wonder whether he's ever locked up with someone that was able to just kind of move him around like that in the clinch, because he seemed to be surprised by that as well. So I just think it was not the version of Francis Ngannou that he was expecting, and I think he kind of prepared himself for a fighter that didn't show up on the night, which just further led to him unraveling and then having to try and regroup in the later part of the fight, which, to be honest, I think he did fairly well.
I think we need to get used to this with Francis Ngannou. Probably not with all other MMA fighters, right? The whole sport was watching. All MMA fighters were like, please go out there and represent. Please go out there and look good. Please go out there and not get dominated. And not only did Francis not get dominated, but he took the fight to Tyson Fury. He scored the only knockdown. If you do the post-fight evaluation of who looks like they got in a fight and who looks like they just went out for a workout, Francis looks great. Not a mark on him, right? He's smiling. He's happy. He's kind of enjoying his moment. And Tyson Fury looks shell-shocked and damaged and all those things, right? So you look at all this and you thought, man, please go out there and just look good for the sport of mixed martial arts. Francis he's one of one, like I said already. He's beyond just being an MMA star. He's beyond just being a boxing star. He's a crossover mainstream athlete that can do things that nobody else on planet Earth can do. I did him a disservice by trying to draw these false equivalents of like, this is like LeBron James trying to play NFL football, or this is Kylian Mbappe trying to be an NBA basketball player or something like that. They can't do that, Dan Hardy. Those individuals that we put on this pedestal of being like freakish human, superhuman athletes, they can't do those things. Francis not only can, but he did. Like, he is one of one. He is a global superstar now, and the future is as bright as it could possibly be. The possibilities are endless. So let's talk about what the future holds. Very briefly, he's a PFL MMA heavyweight at this point in his career. He's also, according to the ranking bodies, he's going to be a top 10 heavyweight boxer. And I imagine everyone in that sport is looking for some redemption, licking their chops. There's the possibility of a big money rematch. Francis Ngannou, what's next for him?
I don't know. I don't think there are too many heavyweights that are going to be putting their hand up to fight him, to be honest, because the version that we got was a surprise. And you've got to think that's the worst version of a boxer that we're going to see of Francis Ngannou. He's going to be better again the next time out. With the confidence to boot coming out of the Tyson Fury fight, I think he's going to be even more problematic going forward. And you know, I look across the heavyweights, like we had a heavyweight card, an undercard for that event. And there are a few fighters that I feel would want to tangle with Francis Ngannou, and I feel like, you know, some of them feel like they'd be able to, but the power is a leveling factor. And then, you know, you think of even the likes of Anthony Joshua. I don't think if Ngannou connected with that left hook and put Joshua on the canvas, he would be able to get up and regroup like Tyson Fury did. I feel like the mental fortitude of Fury is a different level. So he was able to regroup even in a really, really bad situation. But where he goes from now, I mean, of course, I'd like to see him back in the I'd like to see him back in the cage. I'd like to see him in the PFL, in the smart cage with the PFL gloves, and kind of see, you know, who's around, who's available to, you know, to challenge him. But you've got to expect him to continue his boxing career as well, either alongside or, you know, take a brief hiatus and focus on that entirely. I just feel like his options are open to him now.
What I want, and I know it's unlikely, but what I want is I want the boxing world and the boxing community to oblige the MMA world and the MMA community the way that they've been catered to, and that it's always the MMA guys that go and they try their hand at boxing, and boxing gets to say, see, we're just on a different level. Now I want to see this rematch, and I want to see it in the smart cage. I don't care if it's a hybrid rule set or what. I want to see Tyson Fury put his money where his mouth is, right? He's been saying it. Oh, we could do both. I could go in there. I could learn how to wrestle. Do it then. Let's get the rematch, Tyson Fury. You come into Francis Ngannou's world. You come into the smart cage and see if you have any hope of looking as good in our sport as Francis looked in yours.
There's no way that's going to happen.
For that, you're right. He's too smart for it.
But
I still want to see it.
Of course, and I would too. Under any kind of rule set, even boxing in the small gloves with just straight boxing. But like, I think the chances are even slimmer. Given the fact that Francis was such a problem in the boxing ring, like you put Francis in that same fight and you say, okay, you can just throw calf kicks as well. Like he stops Tyson Fury with just calf kicks alone. I just don't think we get it. And I think that it was a real moment where everyone recognized that perhaps the MMA striking is not that far behind. I mean, switching stances, like Southpaw Orthodox, I was just very, very impressed with him.
We don't know what the future holds, but in the present, the stage and the floor and the world are yours, Francis Ngannou. Congratulations. Bravo.